Hey, light workers and lurkers. This is Dreana Hathor, and today I'm going to be talking about how it was to be born into a karmic family. I'm going to be talking about certain family members that I had experiences with, mainly my immediate family, and then I'll go into people that I lived with during my 6-year karmic cycle. So I'm going to try to kill two birds with one stone in this video so I don't dwell on it too long because it's not really worth the energy. So I'm gonna try to kill two birds with one stone, knock them all out. Immediate family, karmic family members that I live with during my karmic cycle, and that'll be the end of that. So I'm gonna start off with my birth parents, my mother, and my birth father, my biological father. Uh, they had me when they were both 17 years old. So my mother was pregnant when my mother was 16 and my father was 16. So my mother is a Leo. Her birthday is August 15th. So she literally had just turned 17 2 months before she had me. So she was literally pregnant at 16 years old. So it's quite rich about her basically, ostracizing me and treating me crazy because I got pregnant at 15 and had my son at 16 when I was only technically a year younger than her when I had my first child. My mother treated me like I committed the worst sin in the world. It was unheard of that a teenager would get pregnant, and she was just so disgusted, couldn't look at me, but she did the same thing. And not only did she do the same thing, but by her experiencing it, she could have took preventative measures to make sure that none of her children will have a teenage baby. So instead of taking accountability for her experiences and her sleeping on the fact that I was pregnant for 6 months and she didn't notice, she decided to take all of her frustrations and all of her anger out on me because she did not care for me in the first place at all. And I'm saying that very lightly. I don't want to say the H word, but that's exactly how she felt about me. But we'll get into that. My father was really no better. He acted like it was the most strangest thing in the world. And another thing is that not only were they both teenage parents to their first children, they was teenage parents to their second children. So they had children, still teenagers, before the age of 20. They had two kids, but they were acting like me getting pregnant and having a baby when I was getting ready to turn 16. So being pregnant at 15 and getting ready to have a baby at 16 was like the most outrageous thing that ever happened in humanity. So I already got into my experiences with her when I was pregnant. I got into what she did when she asked me to come back home after labor. If you want to check that video out, it's titled Raising a Karmic Child. Actually, it's titled My Soul Journey, Raising a Karmic Child. And it'll go into, a little bit of my experience with her when she found out I got pregnant and after I had the baby, what actually happened then. So as I stated in that video, I stayed with her quite a few times during my 6 years of homelessness, during my 6-year karmic cycle. But I'll delve into my last time actually living with her. So my last time actually living with her, I was 19, about 19 years old, and during that time I was in college. So I decided to try to, get a little education because I didn't like working minimum wage jobs. And I was like, let me get me, a college degree. Maybe I can find a job that I'll actually like then. So I was in community college at that time. So she let me stay with her, and she asked if she can get a car in my name. So I was like, sure. Didn't ask any questions why she needed it, nothing. Sure. So she got a car in my name, and around that time, I had got my student loan refund. So she had a boyfriend named Dwayne, and she was out with Dwayne in the car, and they were riding around. I don't know if she needed to get tags for the car. She needed to get certain stuff fixed for the car to be able to get, permanent tags. But she was riding around, and her and Dwayne was out, and she was saying, "Oh, we need this for the car. We need that for the car, and this, that, and that." Me and Dwayne, and I was like, but she's in her mind spending my student refund check. So I'm looking like, first of all, I didn't even stay with her for long periods of time because she would look at me and tell me to get out randomly. So I'm staying with her very briefly. I hadn't been there long, and she knew that I was getting this money. She's very money hungry. So she's looking at me getting the money and was spending my check. She was spending my check while she was out figuring out what she needed to get fixed for the car, to get the car on the road, or to get permanent tags for the car. So I told her that since you and Dwayne doing all this, that, and that, you and Dwayne can't figure out how y'all gonna pay for to fix all this shit. So she got mad on the phone. She called me on the phone, and she got mad on the phone. It was like, I see you when I get home. So I'm sitting in her house, in her room when she get home. I'm sitting there unbothered. Like, what are you going to do when you get home? So she get home, and I'm sitting in a chair, but it was like a cushion kind of lazy boy type chair. So I'm sitting in a chair, and she stands over top of me talking about you and your son about to get out my house, and stand over top of me real big bold. So I took my foot. I snapped. I ain't even gonna lie. This is my first time ever doing anything like this with her, but that was like my final straw. So I took my foot while she was bent over top of me, pointing at my face, and I took my foot and kicked her, like kicked her, and knocked her to the ground. Now, I was smaller, way smaller than what I am right now. All of my basically adult life up until I met my ex-husband, I was around 5'6", 150. This woman was, and I'm 5'6", 150. Like I said, she's about 5'4" or maybe 5'3", and she was in upper 200s. So I kicked that woman so hard that she hit the ground. I kicked her to the floor, or pushed her to the floor. I don't even think it was a kick. It was like taking my foot and I got on top of her and started going to work on her. Like, I beat the brakes off of that woman. Now, mind you, Dwayne was in the house. So Dwayne hear her screaming like, stop, stop, stop. And Dwayne comes in the room and grabs me off of her. And not only grabs me, but like tossed me, like threw me. And Dwayne was a big dude. He had to have been like 6 feet, maybe minimum 5'10", upper 200 pounds, but solid. And he took me and threw me. So I was like, okay. I sized him up. I was like, oh, this. And he was, a her bipolar boyfriend. So he was kind of, and he took me and threw me. So I sized him up. I was like, okay. So not only do I got to fight her, but I got to fight you too. Bet. So I walked out of her room and grabbed a knife. They shut the door as they saw me walking back with a knife, and I started stabbing the door and kicking the door, telling them open the door. Like, I blacked out. So I had left her house, and my son was there. So I couldn't take him with me because I was trying to dodge the police. They was in the room screaming, talking about stop, 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 while I was stabbing the door and kicking the door. And I was like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. Once I snapped out of it, I was like, I gotta go. So I left my son there, and that was the last time I lived with her. And she kept him for a few months because I was already on my waiting list for my subsidized apartment. So she kept him at her house for a few months until my apartment was ready. And she told me when I called to come and get him later on, once it kind of dust kind of settled, she said he could stay with her. So I was like, okay. Like, I was comfortable knowing that she wouldn't do nothing to him, knowing how we established who could whip who ass. Because that woman used to beat me so bad. Like, when I was a kid, she used to beat me for reasons that I didn't even know. Very rarely did I know I was getting beat. And she would make me strip down to nothing, not even underclothes, and beat me with a vacuum cleaner extension. We used to call them vacuum cleaner pipes. And she used to beat me for basically no reason. Like, half the time I didn't even know what I was getting. Most of the time, I'm going to say out of 100%, 90% of the time, even 95, I didn't know what I was getting beat for. And she just was very cruel. And she did stuff to me, man. I'm not even going to go into it right now, but she did stuff to me like she was testing if she could unalive me. I would say that. I spent a lot of my childhood sick. And she would tell me it's a stomach virus. And nobody else in my house would get it. I never missed school, so I would get them on the weekends. And that was a vivid memory in my childhood, being sick, throwing up, having diarrhea, and being bedridden, because she would give me stuff to get me sick to see if she could unalive me. But we'll get into some more sick shit that she type of shit she was into. So that ass whipping I gave her really wasn't nothing compared to the stuff I had to endure dealing with her. So after I left her house, I ended up living with a girlfriend. And once she got over the shock of getting her ass beat, we established who was dominant in the situation. She wanted to get revenge. She wanted to get payback. My mother is a Leo, so she doesn't take defeat very easily. She knew I could beat her ass physically, but she was trying to figure out a way that she could beat me more covertly. So I was living with a girlfriend, and she called my girlfriend talking about me crazy to my girlfriend, trying to get my girlfriend to put me out. So I stayed with my girlfriend for a little while. She told me what happened with my mother. It didn't really affect our friendship, but it was like, okay, you already done put me out so many times. Like, why are you trying to sabotage where I'm living? Then after I left the girlfriend's house, I ended up living with a boyfriend eventually. So I stayed with a boyfriend very temporarily, and me and him broke up. And he ended up leaving me everything, like all the furniture in the house and stuff like that. So I had called my sister. We'll get into my sister in a minute. That's the one that wasn't my stepfather's, that got treated just as bad as me. And I called her and I told her, what was going on. And she was like, oh, you can come stay with me. So I moved all the furniture out of the apartment that me and him had together. My sister didn't have any furniture. So she basically was living in an empty apartment. I was furnishing her whole apartment via my boyfriend that I broke up with. So apparently her and my mother was in cahoots at this time. So mind you, I beat her ass. We established who was dominant physically. So she decided to, I guess my sister called her and told her what was going on. So they decided to team up. And I went to my sister's house to move all the furniture in there. I'm talking about her whole apartment was furnished. And my mother popped up and wanted to start some shit with me. She was trying to provoke me to fight her. And I already saw how she was trying to line me up. I'm not stupid. Like I said, I've been in the streets. I'm not dumb. So I saw her trying to line me up to try to beat her up again so she could get me locked up that time. But it didn't work. I left the shit there like, okay. First of all, I told her, hit me. I wanted her to hit first so that if I beat her ass, then I would be in the right. And she didn't want to hit me first. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just leave this alone. I left all the shit there and left my sister's house. Another thing I like to add is that that's another thing. So after I beat her up, I had went back to her house because I was still kind of seething about it. Like, you want me to pay for all this shit for the car and you want to put me out because I don't want to pay for it and I'm letting you get it in my name, all that little fucked up shit. I was like, okay, I'm going to go get that car. So I went to her house later on and went in and I knocked on the door and told my sister, give me the car keys. I want the car. And my sister went and grabbed it and ain't think twice about it. She already knew what I did in there before. So this is another sister. This is a sister she had with her husband. And she went and grabbed the car keys and just handed them straight to me. I took that motherfucking car. And when I took that car, my mother was like, she ended up first of all, she pressed charges on me. She pressed charges to the point where I had to show up to court. Now, the charges that I was charged with was malicious destruction of property, attempted assault with a deadly weapon, and there was another assault charge. So after I took the car, that was my leverage. So she ended up messaging me or calling me and telling me if I give her the car back, she'll drop the charges. I showed up to court for the charges and everything. I went to court and the judge advised me to get a lawyer. So I was like, okay. The judge was nice to me. There wasn't no bad energy. And he was like, I suggest you, get a lawyer or a public defender for these charges. I was like, okay. But she ended up blackmailing me / I had leverage to negotiate, however you want to look at it. So I ended up giving her the car back and she dropped the charges. All right, so we're going to get into my stepfather. one thing that I didn't bring up in the raising a karmic child video is that his reason for wanting to put me out was not only the little sick lord, obsession he had with me, but there's another thing that happened probably a year before. So his mother, he's from Nigeria, so his mother came to visit us, and we were all staying in a 2-bedroom apartment. It was, my mother had 4 kids, so it's 4 kids and 3 adults, him, her, and his mother. So that's what, 7 people staying in a 2-bedroom apartment. So it was already just too cramped and too much going on. But one day my mother was in the kitchen and his mother was in the kitchen too. So my mother was correcting my little brother. Now, let me tell you something. The way she corrected him was very, very, very soft parenting compared to how she corrected us. But she corrected my little brother, and his mother started going off on her. And as bad as my mother treated me, I was still like a rider. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's how I am. Like, if you are my peoples and you ride with me, I will ride for it. Not even if you ride with me, because she didn't ride for me, but if I considered you my family or a part of me, then I'm going to protect you. So when his mother got aggressive with her, like yelling and doing all this and that and that and that, I snapped. I was 14 years old and I beat his mother up. So once he found out that I beat his mother up, and when I beat her up, I didn't even think about it. It was like instinctual. So he found out about it and he was pissed. So one day my mother had went to work shortly thereafter, and he decided to come in my room that I shared with my sister, and he wanted to fight me. So I was like, okay. So we fought. We fought. I'm 14. I'm little. I'm going to say I wasn't 5'6" yet. I might have been 5'4", maybe 120, 130 pounds. And this was a man. Like, he was short too. He was short. He was like 5'6" for a man. That's short. But he was happier than me, more muscular. But I held my own. I gave him a run for his money. I was still standing. We squared up and we did what the fuck we had to do. And I ain't feel no kind of way about it. I'm like, I beat his mother up. Okay, I'll take that one. You know what I'm saying? I gave him a run for his money. Like, I wasn't no easy fight because he beat my mother up before I gave her a black eye. I remember being a kid and she had a black eye and all that, but I'm not my mother. So I'm thinking, okay, that's the end of that. But apparently, when I got pregnant, that could be something you can add on the list of things that he wanted to get revenge for. But as far as I was concerned, we was even Steven. We fought into that. But I held my own so much that I'm gonna tell you that he had an opportunity to fight me again. He was trying to come at my sister that wasn't his, and I stood between them like, what's up? And he didn't want to fight me. So that'll give you kind of an idea of how I handled my business. But my stepfather, he was a bum. He went to Morgan State, got a degree in business, but ended up being a car salesman, barely made money. My mother was like the masculine in the relationship. So she made sure that the bills were paid. I remember, her just being the one that was the masculine in the relationship. She made sure that things were taken care of. And initially she was a CNA, but she ended up getting her LPN license. So she ended up making pretty good money. But we moved from around McCabe and she got her LPN. We moved to a better neighborhood around Northwood, which was not the best, but it was way better than McCabe. And she was the masculine, she was the responsible one, she was the one who handled her business. Um, she's a Leo, like I said before, and he's an Aquarius. I like to say zodiac signs in case you may be involved or have these karmic zodiac signs around you. You can kind of pick up on the traits like, yeah, I know, a karmic Leo like that, or a dark-sided Leo, or dark-sided Aquarius like that. So I'm going to name zodiac signs to the people that I'm talking about. Now, my birth father, his name is Darnell. So Darnell, when I was born, I did not remember him at all. I did not meet Darnell technically, remembering meeting him until I was 10 years old. So when I met him, I didn't know him. I'm like, okay. He had a wife and he had a daughter that was close to my age. She might have been like a year or two younger than me. And I remember going around his house and trying to get acclimated into his family, but they treated me like an outsider. I didn't feel welcomed. I remember going to his house and his wife would have me, I'd be chilling with my sister who was close to me in age. And she acted like she didn't trust me around her daughter, like she had come in, and it just felt very uncomfortable, like she did not trust me or didn't really didn't want me around her kids with him. So I would go around, but I didn't feel comfortable at all. His wife was very insecure. I remember into my teenage years, he told me that she said that he treated me like I was his girlfriend. I also remember being like a young girl, like a little kid, and I go around their house, and like I said, my mother was a heavy set woman, and I go around there, and I'm even though my mother was not the best to me, but that didn't matter to me. I still loved her and felt like I needed to protect her. And I would go around there. One day I went around there, and they were making jokes about my mother's weight. So she's laughing, making jokes about mama weight, and he laughing with her. I'm like, how disrespectful is that? Like, I don't care. Like, you don't. That's my mother at the end of the day, and they didn't even know what was going on at home, but they knew that that was my mother, and she felt the need to sit and try to make fun of my mother in front of me, which was totally disrespectful, evil, and uncalled for. He was He's an Aquarius as well. My mother has a thing for Aquariuses. So my biological father is an Aquarius as well, and his wife is a Gemini. I like to state their zodiac signs, but he used to cheat on that woman, and that's probably where her insecurities, was rooted in. Like, why do you think that he treat me like his girlfriend? I don't know their. I didn't know their dynamic at home, but I will say this. One day when I was older, around 14, I wasn't even pregnant with my son yet, my father had a conversation with me asking me if I ever gave a man head fellatio before. And I was like, no. But that question enough is enough to raise red flags. So I don't know how he spoke about me with her. I'll give her that, but you don't take that out on the child. You take that out on who you're with. If he's a fucking weirdo and he's a loser and he's a cheater and he got all these issues with his sexuality, that's between you and him. You don't put that on the child. Now, I did live with my father at some point. Now, when I lived with him and his wife was divorced by then. And him and his wife got divorced because he had an affair with a woman, and he had it spanned for years long apparently, because he was taken down to child support by said woman for I think about 3 or 4 children. So they was together that long for her to have that many babies and be questioning him as the father, but he ended up being the father of none, and one of the children actually is his junior. So once she found out about the woman taking him to child support, that's when she decided to divorce him. So she was worried about the wrong people. She worried about my mother being fat. My mother had a man. My stepfather might have had a lot of issues. He did had a little assumption with me, but it was no, like, she didn't deal with him having kids outside of her and no shit like that. So you could be all skinny or however you think you are compared to her being a heavy set woman, but she didn't have the issues you had. Your husband still went out and was had damn near a family. If it wasn't a hoe, it would have been a family he would have had with somebody else, and a junior he would have had with somebody else. So she just had issues that she tried to take out on everybody else, which was ridiculous, very ridiculous. And she treated me mean. Like, she would be around me and she'd be like, "Oh, Dreana this and Dreana that," have all these complaints about me. I wasn't worried about no people. When I saw that she didn't want to be around her kids, I was like, "Fuck you and your kids." And she felt some kind of way about that because I wasn't trying to fit in. So it was after that, it was like, Dreana don't want to talk to us and Dreana don't want to do this. You ain't gonna treat me. See, she wanted to line me up to be the one to trying to fit in. I don't give a fuck about you or your kids. So now that you see I don't give a fuck about you or your kids, because I see how you trying to carry it, now I'm the problem. Now I don't want to fit in. No, you set that up. You set the tone. I just went with what you was doing. I went with what you tried to lay out for me. So now, because I'm not kissing your asses, I don't give a fuck about y'all. Now you complaining about me and you got all these issues with me. Now we're gonna go to my siblings. So I'm gonna start with my sibling that wasn't my stepfather. So my sibling Mookie, like I said, she tried to team up with my mother. Like she let my mother line me up. Like she set me up with my mother. Now with her, I was always her protector. Now my sister, growing up, she had issues. She was a thief. She was a liar. Like I said, my whole family karmic. She is not exempt from that karmic family. So I remember her stealing my mother's wedding ring. She stole my mother's wedding ring and took it to school to give to one of her friends. Like she was always a thief. And from what I hear, her father was a thief and con artist. My mother ended up procreating with him and got her. So she got what she procreated with, a thief and a liar. So, but that's still, and I like to make this very clear, I don't care if kids are karmic, whatever kind of issues they have, you still supposed to treat them with love and care and raise them up the way you would treat any other kid. Okay. But I'm just telling you how she was and the issues mother had with her. So she like I said, she was a thief from young. One day I walk in the bathroom, my mother washing her hair, was supposed to be washing her hair. My mother trying to drown the girl. I go in the bathroom. At first I hear my sister screaming and I hear water splashing. So, and I'm young. We was living around the cave. So I was 5th grade or younger. No, we moved around there in the 5th grade. So I was around 5th, 6th, 7th grade. My mother used to beat me, but I didn't care. Like, I'm going to protect who I want to protect. I wasn't scared of her. It was just my reality. But when I saw her trying to drown my sister in the tub, and she had my sister in the tub, and she had like this little evil smirk on her face, and my sister splashing and screaming, and I went and pushed her over, like, get off of her. And she snapped out of it, but she had like a wicked grin. If you could think of a movie with a wicked grin, that's the grin she had on her fucking face. She tried to drown my sister. So I saved my sister's life. And anytime she had any problems, like I had her back. I was her protector. Whatever issue she had, whatever. Like if you are a part of mine and I consider you a part of my circle, then I'm gonna ride for you regardless. If I accept you, is what it is. It ain't no accepting you and hating you behind your back, talking about you behind your back. I accept you for your flaws and all. And that's the way I was with my sister. But she in turn decided to repay me by trying to set me up with my mother. And she not only tried to set me up with my mother, but she actually did a lot of lying on me over the years, telling people that she took care of me, she bought me cars, she did this, that, and that, trying to make me look lower than her while she was trying to put herself above me behind my back. I've had her friends come to me and tell me that she said all kind of stuff about me lying because she's a habitual liar. Now, this is a Facebook post that she posted talking about how I was her protector and always had her back, like she was my very own child, defending her against anyone. And she also was capping, talking about I support her in her many business ventures. She don't have many business ventures. This is her grandiose narcissism right here. But she was not lying about how I defended her and had her back and protected her like she was my own child. And in turn, she took every chance that she get to try to lower me and try to, disrespect me behind my back to try to make herself feel better. It was like, I'm a whole person. So I didn't feel the need to try to fit in with my mother. Like, you was a part of my circle. I looked at you like my mother, yes. But I didn't try to get accepted by her. There's a difference. My sister wanted to be accepted by her by any means necessary. So when she set me up, she was basically treated almost equally the same. I don't remember her getting beatings like I did. I don't remember her being told to strip down to nothing and being beat. I don't remember her being sick. But I do remember her being treated like she was less than. And for her to sit and try to be on my mother's good side by turning on me was majorly fucked up. But like I said about karmics, like no matter how you feel about them, as loyal as you might be, as loving as you might be, they can't reciprocate that. They are not capable of doing it, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm just bringing awareness. So my sister Adrian, they were her husband's children. Not too much I can say about her. She's basically like her little minion. She's a dodo bird. Like she's a Leo as well. My sister that I brought up that wasn't here, she's a Gemini. I'll note that. Adrian, she's a Leo like my mother. Dodo bird, go with whatever my mother say, whatever. Like she's brainless. She's like a crash dummy. That's what I call a lot of karmics, like crash dummies. Like they don't have no mind of their own. They just go with whatever. My brother Bert, he's a Gemini. That's her other child with her husband, and he is he thinks he's smarter than what he is. He tried to say little stuff to go over people's head, and he did that with my daughter. And my daughter, like, nigga, like, excuse me, but he think he's smarter than what he is, and it's crazy because he's a lead baby. He got a lead check for eating lead paint on McCabe. He's not as smart as he think he is, but I guess because he a Gemini, he has that delusion of being smarter than what he is. But me and him, me and Adrian, the sibling before that, never really got into it. We never really had no ending, and me and him had an ending. And our ending was he came to my house and was talking about my son's job or the places that he works in, that the places were not up to par and he needed to do this and that. My brother, yes, he graduated from college. He graduated from Morgan like his father did. But he's a bum too. Like he majored in some bullshit like his father did. He followed one of his father's footsteps. And he came to me feeling some kind of way about that. And I tried to console him, like, it's okay, you know, you'll figure it out. But he's bum junior. He came to my house trying to sit and talk about my son's jobs and how my son is doing in life as if I don't know this. So I called him out on it. And I was like, you have no room to talk. Oh, he was pissed. He was pissed, but I still stood 10 toes down. Like, you ain't got no fucking room to talk. Like, yeah, you went to Morgan, you got a business degree, but what business are you making money from? He lived in subsidized housing like I lived in. Any job that he got was warehouse jobs like my son had. Like, I'm not going to feed into your delusions. And how dare you come to my house talking about my son to my fucking face and thinking I'm not going to say shit and I ain't going to call you out on your shit. Yes, I called him out. And I called him out so bad. My son wasn't there at that time, but he ended up coming over. But it got kind of heated. It got heated on my part. I was cool as a fucking fan, but my son went outside with him and he had said something to my son. My son didn't say exactly what he said, but my son insinuated that my brother wanted to fight me because of what me calling him out. And my son let him know, like, you don't want to do that. Like, she's not the one to do that with. She's like, my son let him know. And he came back in the house and he was, you know, he ain't trying no shit, but I'm really not the one. Like, I'm not the one to sit and you think you about to do what? You about to fight who? What you gonna do? No, son. Like, my son, no. My son, we grew up together. I might be his mother, but I had him at 15. He know me. He's seen some shit. And he know that I ain't the type to ball up, bow down, or fold on nobody, man or woman. Like, I'm not folding. I'm going to give you a run for your fucking money. I'll size you up and we'll take it from there. And I'm going to win. If it's between me and you, it's going to be me. Straight up. And that's going to be, I'm going to size you up. And it will be, I will take it to the deepest, darkest pits of hell if I need be to win. If need be. So my son let my brother know, like, you don't want to do that. And he wasn't even telling him on the tip of him wanting to help me because he know I don't need his help. He was telling him on the tip to tell him that you don't want to do it. So I ended up blocking my brother after that, and he's been asking for me to unblock him and all that. I'm not unblocking him. He's a clown. He's another delusional. that enable that he's just karmic. Like I don't want no karmics in my life, so I'll never unblock him. He just saw my daughter recently telling her to tell me to unblock. I'm not unblocking him. Like, it's not gonna happen. So if you see this, Bert, it's not gonna happen. So I stayed with an aunt named Kelly during my 6-year karmic cycle. Now Kelly, I always thought she was cool. She was like a young aunt. So she was my grandmother's youngest child. And I always thought she was cool. All the cousins, when you see like, hey, Aunt Kelly, Kelly, Kelly. And I thought she liked me. But one day when I was a teenager, my mother befriended one of her friends when her and Kelly stopped being cool. That's how my mother is. Like, she'll befriend your man, your friend, whatever, once y'all stop speaking. And who knows what she be talking about or doing with your man. Or what she be talking about with your fucking friend. But she started being friends with one of Kelly's ex-friends. And one of Kelly's ex-friends came over to my mother's house when I was like 14. And she was like, Kelly don't like you. She was a shit starting friend. I ain't like her. I was like, every time she come around, she'd come around trying to get information. I ain't like her. But she told me like Kelly ain't like you, and that really hurt my feelings. I'm like, why Kelly don't like me? Out of all the cousins, I had a lot of girl cousins. She singled me out. I know why now. But Kelly ain't like me. So when I ended up needing somewhere to stay, I stayed with Kelly, and Kelly, woo! I'm at her house and I might have been maybe 18. I'm at her house and I'm there I come there at night. I'm hungry, but I'm like, okay, I'm chilling. Come the next day, I'm in her house all day. She at work. She was a CO, and I know she was a piece of shit CO. She's a nasty bitch. Like, she's very evil, very fucking mean spirited. I know she gave them inmates hell. But she was at work, and I decided, I was like, let me get me something to eat. Like, I'm starving. So I went and got like a little box of Kraft mac and cheese. Now, you know them Kraft mac and cheese is less than $1. So I made me a box of Kraft mac and cheese. She come home and she look at her trash can. She's like, don't eat no food in my house. I was like, okay, bitch, I'm out. I can't eat no Kraft mac and cheese. You feed a dog. You feed a fucking dog. My kids have company or whatever. Like, if I had people at my house, I offer food. Like, that's common decency. It's basic humanity. I was like, I'm out of this bitch. I was out of her house so quick, and I went to go stay with my grandmother. Now, Kelly is another Gemini, I like to add. And Kelly has a son that's an adult now. And last time I heard, he don't want no parts of her. She's so nasty. She's so mean. He don't want no parts of his mother at all. Like, she's very evil. And the last time I heard, Kelly had cancer. And I could see how that bad energy could fester and create it. So I went to go stay with my grandmother after that. Now, my grandmother is a Taurus. So I went to go stay with her, and me and her never had a relationship. So during that time, I'm at her house, and we really never talked. So I'm at her house, and she enjoyed talking to me. We would talk for hours. We talked so much that she ended up telling me about some of the family secrets. So she told me that her husband molested one of her children, which is her oldest daughter, Sherry. I was like, oh, for real? And I remember my grandparents being together, my childhood. I remember going around that house. They was together. They were married. They had 5 kids together. They were together. But I remember being in elementary school, and me and Shari's son was in the same class. We were the same age. So me and Shari's son in the same class. And I remember one day I'm in school, and it was like a bunch of commotion about him. So he apparently came to school and had a burn on the side of his face. So Shari's boyfriend at the time stuck his face in the oven. So he came to school with a burn on his face, and they called CPS. My grandmother ended up taking all of her kids. Like, they gave my grandmother temporary custody of her kids. So I guess during all that drama, Shari came out and said that her husband molested her, which is Shari's father. So after that, Shari didn't speak to nobody. She ended up eventually getting her kids back, but she cut herself completely off from the family. And I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know what happened, because simultaneously My cousin face got stuck in the oven. My grandmother and grandfather separated. They still married, but they separated. And Shari, disappeared. Like she didn't want to be involved. But all the stuff, like I said, I keep mental notes. All my life I've been that way. So I go back into my little mental vote. I'm like, okay, yeah, all this stuff did line up. Like all at the same time. But I kept that secret. I think I was the first person to know about it because I never heard anybody else talk about how he molested his daughter, Shari. But I kept that. I kept that to myself. And if eventually came out with years later, I was probably close to 30 years old when I heard my mother say it, but she still dealt with him after that. She didn't care because Shari and her didn't get along. Shari couldn't stand my mother. So it's like a karmic family. Y'all know the routine. If you ever been in a karmic family, don't think because you're the black sheep or you're the light one, don't think that there's no drama because they can't stand each other. The whole situation is karmic. They can't stand each other. They can't stand your ass even more. But they don't get along amongst themselves either. It's like chaotic drama. But my grandmother, one thing I will say that I remember that really that does not sit well with me at all. My grandmother had a son. He was either 24 or 25, named Andre. And Andre was very, very nice to me. Like, I can't say anybody else in my family treated me nice and was nice to me. I had good energy outside of him. And I acknowledged that so much that I ended up naming my firstborn only son Andre after him because he was just always so nice to me. I call the house, he'd be like, hey shorty, always in good spirits. He was different from everybody else. Everybody else was fucking mean and hateful, but he did not give me that. And kids are very sensitive to energy, and I never felt any kind of way about Andre. I always felt like he actually saw me and treated me like a person. So Andre had went to the Navy at some point after graduating high school, came home from the Navy, served his country, went and stayed with my grandmother. My grandmother ended up putting him out. So, and I never heard anything bad about him. Keep that in mind. He was not a karmic. He was a good person as far as I could fucking see. Never heard nothing. If it was something bad about him, trust me, they would have been talking. So she put him out after coming home from the Navy. And he actually was homeless. And one day he went to 7-Eleven and he allegedly stole out the store on Ricestown Road. So when he left the store, I guess trying to scavenge for food because he's homeless. He didn't have any family or anything. Don't it sound familiar? And the 7-Eleven owner got in his car, drove up on him, and ended up shooting him down. Killed him. Now, my grandmother put him out, had him out there, your son, and scavenging for food, stealing food and all that kind of stuff. But she ended up cashing in on his death. And my mother, the reason why I know she cashed in on his death, my mother felt some kind of way, her money hungry ass, because she didn't give her kids any money. She just went and renovated her house. She always kept a renovation. Her house was always renovated to the nines. So she renovated her house and bought a Lincoln Navigator and was living large off of her son that she put out deaf because she ended up suing the 7-Eleven owner. And then another point I'd like to make is that my mother knew. She knew that her brother was put out. Her brother was murdered out on the streets trying to fend for himself. But she still didn't give a fuck enough to turn around and ended up putting both her teenage daughters out on the street and basically threw them to the wolves and was like, whatever. Like she didn't give a shit, knowing that she already experienced her brother being murdered for being out on the streets prior. When I finally left my grandmother's house, like I said, we used to talk and she would sit and talk to me for hours. She loved talking to me. And it eventually shifted kind of quickly to her wanting to sit and argue, like yell at me, not even argue because I didn't argue with her. But she would sit and try to like yell at me and verbally abuse me. And not only verbally abuse me and yell and just be trying to let her anger or whatever she got going on inside out on me, but she did it in front of my son. I was like, I'm not staying here dealing with this shit. Like, you crazy. Like, you enjoy my company. You want to talk to me, but you want to use me as your verbal and mental punching bag? Absolutely not. So I was already lining up somewhere to live during that time. So when I was ready to leave, when it came time for me to go, I had set up my child support checks to come to her house. So I had already lined up to go live with my biological father. So I go to her house to pick up my child support. I already changed the address. I'm just trying to go get my little check that got to her house. She comes outside and she actually was mad. Like she felt some kind of way because I wanted to leave. Like she thought I was going to sign up for that. Like her verbally abusing me. She felt some kind of way. She was like, "Are you leaving?" Like she was felt some kind of fucking way. So I come there to pick up my check, and she basically holding my check and talking shit like da 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 da, like she ain't gonna give it to me. When I tell you, it took everything in me not to mollywop that woman. And that woman had carpal tunnel in both hands. It would not have been fair. It wouldn't have been fair if she didn't. When I say it took everything in me not to mollywop her, I was so pissed the way she was sitting trying to taunt me with my check and thinking she doing something that I stood in front of my phone and was like, oh, like I was mad. I was like, it took everything in me not to beat her ass, man. And she gave me my check and I ain't talked to her for a long time after that. But that's the way I left her fucking house. You see how these comics try to taunt you? How they try to taunt you? So I went to go live with my father. I'm living there with my son. He definitely wasn't worried about building a relationship with me. We didn't have one, but he wasn't worried about building one. And he was definitely not concerned about being a male role model in my son's life because we living in the house. His wife already gone. So it's just me, him, and my son living there. But he wasn't never there. He had a girlfriend who is now his wife, last time I heard, who lived in Cherry Hill, and that's where he would be, out in Cherry Hill. So one time, one thing that sticks out in my mind that disgusts me, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would never forget that, is that when I was living with him, he was going to Morgan, there's all these Morgan people, but he was going to Morgan State late in life. He was an electrician most of his, I guess, adult life. He was an electrician, but he would decide to go to Morgan State to switch his career. So he going to Morgan State, and my father was always like a ladies' man. Like I had girlfriends that would see him that would crush on him. Like girls like my father. Like it is what it is. But he was going to Morgan, and one day he decided to bring two girls to his house, me and my son there. And they went in his room and had a damn loud threesome. That's how much respect that man had for me. I was looking like, ugh. Now, if it was his other daughters that he had with his wife, he would not have done no shit like that. But because it was me, he decided to disrespect me by bringing two women in and had a romper room threesome in the other room right next to my room, and I had to sit and listen to that shit. Disgusted. But hey, I'm just Driana, right? So the final straw was he had bought some juice. And he bought some juice, and I was getting food stamps. Like I could have easily bought his juice. I just didn't have a vehicle. But he got mad because he had been at his girlfriend's house for who knows how long, and he finally come back, and most of his juice was gone. I don't think it all was gone. But he decided to want to cuss me out about his juice. So me and him going back and forth, call each other B's and F you. It almost went to blows in his damn house. So I ended up going back to one of my girlfriend's houses. Matter of fact, I might have went back to my house. I might have got that mixed up because I think she did take me back to her house. I ended up beating her ass. I think I went back to my mama's house, and that was my last time staying with her. Matter of fact, because I ended up beating her ass. So that was a long ass cycle. That was a cycle of me seeing how people truly were. Like they. I forgot my cousin Kiana. Hold on. So after I beat my mother up, I ended up living with my cousin Kiana. Now Kiana is Aries, and growing up, we was always really cool. Like she would come around my house, spend the weekend, always felt at home. Sometimes I would go over her house. I ain't go over her house that much. Her mother used to get high. Her mother was a junkie. So I didn't go over her house too tough until, not really at all. She used to mainly come around my house mostly. I go to her house sometimes. She lived over west by Garrison and Belvedere. But when I did go around her way, you know, we would hang out and stuff like that, walk around Gerson, Belvedere, Park Heights, all that kind of cool jazz. But I noticed that when me and her would hang together, like she wanted to be like me. She wanted to wear her hair like me. She wanted to talk like me. She wanted to walk like me. She used to say, "Oh, we twins. We look just alike." All this, that, and that. They the type of people that you really need to watch out for. They are the type of people that want to be you, and they really are jealous of you because once I went to go live with Kiana, she did a total 180. Like she treated me horribly. Now I knew she was weak. I knew she was the girl that used to get chased home from Pimlico Middle School that ran her mouth and couldn't fight. I knew that she wanted to be like me. I knew all these things, but I still treated her good. I treated her no differently because she was my cousin. You know, I still treated her good. Still did her hair sometimes. Still, you know, took her up under my wing, even though I know she looked up to me, and I was the younger cousin. I think she might be. Is she a year younger? Either way, like she looked. No, I'm a year younger. She looked up to me. If not a year, I'm months younger than her. But she definitely looked up to me, and I never treated her no kind of way. I took her up under my wing. I never made her feel weak or like a little weak motherfucker that she is. I never treated her like that. I treated her like she was my cousin. But in turn, I go to her house and she decide, oh, you're homeless. You're doing bad. Let me treat you like shit. I've been feeling this way. I've been feeling jealous of you. I've been feeling like, you know, I want to be you for so long. Let me get my, you know, my little licks in. This is my time. So a few examples of situations that I had living with her was that she wanted me to cook for her kids and cook for her, but she wouldn't let me eat at her house. Here's another person not to want me to eat. I'm like, okay, I'll buy my own shit, whatever. Another thing is she had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend never met me, but it was somebody that she was dealing with, but it wasn't even really a boyfriend. It was a nigga that was playing her stupid ass because he had a woman. He didn't live with her. He had his own fucking life, but she was a dodo bird for his stupid ass. She was a dodo bird for a lot of people. She was a dodo bird for her children's father. She was with her children's father, who was from around Park Heights, and that was a whole mess. Cheating on her daughter father with his homeboy. Her daughter father locked up, have her on the phone reading the Bible, having Bible study. Whole time she's freaking on his homeboy. But he had that much control over her. Had her on the phone doing Bible study while he locked up. Like she's a dodo bird, and he gave her a couple STDs while she was pregnant. Dodo bird, and um, like I said, she had this boyfriend that was dogging her out. Like he had no respect for her. He had a whole woman, from what I remember, but he had came over her house, and she was telling me when he come in hide. She was like standing behind. It was like a door in a room, and she was like, "If he come in, stand like this by the door, like do like this." I'm like, "What? Like you don't want your boyfriend, whatever he is, to see me? Why? Like what?" She was like real insecure. She was she's weak, a weak bitch, a goofy weak bitch. But she decided she wanted to get her little licks in when she felt like I was down or felt like I was, you know, weak. I've never been weak in my life. I don't give a fuck what situation I was in. I've never, ever been weak. I've known y'all was weak, but I chose to spare you. Not today, though. So there was a time when I was staying with her and she locked me out her house too. She locked me out. I'm knocking on the door to come in and she acting like she not home. I know her ass home. I had to sleep in her laundry room in her building one time. Now, around that time when I was living with her, I actually met my oldest daughter's father. So I would spend a lot of time at his house too. That was kind of lining me up to get up out of her shit. Because he lived like around the corner from her. He's from Poplar Grove, but he lived out Randallstown with her. at that time. So I would go over his house. He want me over his house all the time. Like one time he came over her house, but I left a bobby pin at his house to come get me. Like he wanted me up under his ass. So I had somewhere to go. So during that time I was dancing. I was a dancer, and her boyfriend, and she knew that. So she asked, her boyfriend asked me to sell some drugs at the club. Her boyfriend. Now he thought I was a dodo bird like her. I was like, I'm not saying no. I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. So she told me, oh, if you are not going to sell the drugs at the club, then you got to go. So that was the way I left her house. I ended up, I'm going to go live with my daughter's father. Stayed there for a little while. Some shit popped off there that I ain't even going to talk about with a girl. And I didn't give a fuck so much that I ended up moving out of his house to go live with the damn girl until my apartment was ready. Like, I didn't care. I care about disrespect more than anything. I didn't care about what he did with the nurse that he hired to take care of his grandmother. But I did end up moving with her while I was waiting for my damn apartment. I moved from her and her boyfriend to the damn apartment. That's how much I didn't give a fuck about what he did with his genitals. But during that time when I was living with him, I did not know I was pregnant until after I got into my apartment. So that was a whole nother thing. I ain't even really gonna get into. He's not important. He just whatever. So once I got into my apartment, it did take some adjusting from going through that 6-year karmic cycle. I didn't name everything that went. I tried to make this video as short as possible. But it did take some adjusting. I remember waking up at night, like where am I at, looking around, making sure, I felt like kind of like a PTSD. I kind of went through until I got adjusted to being stable or whatever. And, it is what it is. No hard feelings, but, they just showed me who they were. And I left them in the dust. I did end up still kind of being cool with my mother on and off. We had cycles where I would not talk to her for a long time and then would talk to her. She would come to me like, hey, try and talk to me and shit. And I would, act like nothing happened. Like that's how she would come back and I would just go with it up until I was around 30 years old. And after that, that was the end of me and her. But I did let her still have relationships with my kids as they were used to her. I just wanted them to see her for who she was. Because I told them about our history, but I wanted them to see for themselves. Like I did not want to keep them away from her. I wanted them to decide on their own if they wanted to deal with her or not by their own experiences with her or seeing how she is. And lo and behold, my son still, he's a karmic too, but my daughters, they ended up on their own cognizance deciding that they did not want to deal with her anymore. My oldest daughter saw how she treated my son because I ended up putting my son out at 19 because he was stealing from people around the house. He ended up stealing my car a few times and he just was, just doing too much. So I ended up putting him out for the first time at 19 years old. He went to stay with her and she saw how she treated him. But he stayed with her for a while and then went with his father's mother. She saw how she treated him, like this woman ain't right. And then she also I think that's the reason why she stopped dealing with my mother, because she already heard about me and her history and then she saw how she treated my son. But my youngest daughter stopped dealing with her on her own because they went to Disney World and my mother treated her really bad at Disney World. So my daughter was like, I don't want to see her. I don't want to talk to her ever again. And I haven't forced them. I just wanted them to see on their own. And my kids are tough. I raise solid kids as I'm solid. So I know that she not crazy enough to do nothing crazy because she know I'll beat her ass. And I know that they tough enough to be able to handle the little shit she may do. But they need them lessons. I think those lessons are very important for everybody to learn. And it's good to learn from other people, but I think it's best to kind of see stuff for yourself as well. So that was the end of that. But yeah, another thing I like to mention is that in my twin flame video, I was mentioning how I keep mental notes. So my mother got her ass beat by me. Okay. I cut her off. Okay, that could have been the end of that. But she decided not to let sleeping dogs lie. She decided to team up or try to go against me with my twin flame. Now, the reason why I'm saying this because, like I said, I keep mental notes. Now, if you watch my Raising a Karmic Child video, you'll know that she didn't really pay attention to me. She didn't pay attention to me enough or pay attention to the right shit enough that I hid a pregnancy from her for 6 months. But when I was in middle school, my twin flame tried to talk to me and I said I had a boyfriend. My mother came in my room later on. It was like around the same time frame. I can't say exactly, but she came in my room looking for traces of a boyfriend. So I remember her looking through my stuff. Now, my first boyfriend was the sweetest thing. Like, he was the best. And he set the bar really high for the losers that I met after that. But he used to write me love letters. He was a Cancer. And he used to write me love letters and stuff. And my mother came in my room looking for some shit. This be way before I got pregnant. So this was like when my twin flame was like when I was 12. And she found love letters that my boyfriend wrote me at that time. And she came to me with the letters like, oh, this is so sweet, acting like she cared, but she didn't. But she came looking for something. So when I had my awakening and got the download that she was teaming up with him to try to go against me or try to attack me, that my mind went straight to the fact that she came in my room when I told him I had a boyfriend, looking for proof of a fucking boyfriend, and found the love letters that he wrote me. And she decided to team up with my twin flame. So I'm telling you, Andrea, that this is exactly the reason why you're getting your ass beat spiritually now. This is the reason why you're getting whipped every which way but loose. Because you couldn't let sleeping dogs lie. Yeah, I beat your ass. Yeah, you hate me. Yeah, you jealous of me. But why? Why did you feel the need to try to go against me with my twin flame? Andrea knew that I had a twin flame before I had a fucking twin flame because his mother is overbearing. So some kind of way his mother and her got together or they talked and they figured out that we were twin flames because his little feelings was hurt because I didn't want his ass. I had a boyfriend. And they knew before I knew I had a twin flame, and she decided to team up with him amongst other people to try to take me down. And she could never fucking take me down. They could get it together with an army, put an army together, and couldn't do shit with me and still get their ass beat. So this is exactly why your karma is so serious, and why you're getting your ass beat so bad, and why you will continue to suffer for the rest of your existence, Andrea Burton Montague. Anyway, tell me what y'all think about this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed. And I just want to make it very clear that these comics are not nothing serious. They are very childish, very just low vibe. And the reason why they feel so intimidated and feel the need to attack you, honestly, and I'm going to spill some real true tea, is that because they know subconsciously that you outrank them spiritually. They know that they are on the bottom of the barrel, demon level, and that you are a king or queen, and that you outrank them. They are intimidated. So imagine a king or a queen being sent from the palace out to go live with regular people, but not just regular people, to go live with like the worst of the worst people out in you know, with regular folks. And imagine how those people, the thieves, the liars, like the scum, like the worst of the worst, going to treat royalty. They're going to try to bring them down. They're going to try to make them feel as bad, as low as they do. And that's exactly what it is. Even if they don't know on a conscience level, they know subconsciously that you outrank them, that you are higher than them. So what they're going to do when you're born into these families, that they're going to try to destroy you. They're going to try to break your spirit in any which way they can. That's their goal. Little do they know it's not possible. It will never happen, and they will suffer. They will suffer, 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 suffer. So that give you like a little insight into the mentality of karmics and the way they think. Even if you think they're stupid or they don't know, it's subconscious. More happens subconsciously than whatever happened consciously. So much happened, so much more happens on a subconscious level. You just got to open your mind up, because some people really have no reason to hate you. They have no reason to treat you any kind of way outside of them subconsciously knowing that you outrank them and subconsciously knowing that you're better in every way. And I don't want to hear that shit talking about ain't nobody better than nobody. I will never in a million years say that me and a karmic is on the same level. I'm sorry. It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. But this is the end of this video. Hopefully y'all got something out of it. Hopefully you got a lesson out of it. Hopefully, it was worth your time and you learned from it. And please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Bye.